Mic check 1 2. Mic check 1 2. What up? What up? It's the AGM Podcast once again, episode 3, man. Here with my wonderful co-host, my boy Dorian, aka Huso, and our beautiful queen Yana Captivates.
Yeah.
My guy Dre behind the camera lens, man with the plan.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, we got a lot to get into today, man. But just first, want to thank y'all for tuning in and the feedback. Continue to send it in.
Yes.
Instagram is the AGM Podcast. Our email, allgrindmedia21@gmail.com. So just continue to send us love, man, and let's continue to push forth. We're gonna start with basically where we left off last time. We do officially have a projected presidential winner now, Mr. Joe Biden. What I want to ask centered around that is, what the hell am I missing? Because I made a comment the other day on social media basically calling out his racism and many of the comments that he's made over the years against African Americans. And apparently I'm the crazy one, like from family members to friends, all of that. Like I had to take all the smoke, and I thought it was maybe more, I don't know, I thought more people knew about it than I guess I thought. So, I want to ask my co-host's opinion on this. Is it something I'm missing? Is Biden like who people think he is, or like? I'll start with
it's just that Biden represents there's a meme going around where people was like, now we can get back to classic racism or traditional
I've
racism.
seen that.
And that's what he represents for a lot of black people, which is like Donald Trump he represents like unbridled racism, which is more like the racism that was like in the 60s and prior, where white people just told you like, get out of my way, nigga, like just to your face.
Right.
And all that stuff, tiki torches, basically represent burning crosses and that type of shit. So with Joe Biden, even though he has been a part of the crime bill and he's on record as saying like a bunch of like racist shit. Yeah, and then especially for like older generations, like really I guess any black baby boomer.
Right.
So I use my mom as an example. My grandma, anybody like I feel like in their 50s maybe and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
For them, Trump was like the boogeyman, low key.
Right.
Just the ultimate racist. When it came down to this election and you talked to him about it, it was like, we gotta get him out. We gotta get him out.
Regardless of who he's running.
Regardless of who it is, like we gotta pick the lesser of two.
The devil himself.
Right, exactly.
Trump gotta go there.
Yeah, to them, Trump is like the manifestation of just all of America's racism.
Right.
When if we look at their background, Trump ain't enacted no racist policies, especially in comparison to Joe Biden. So that's what I feel like everybody's just kind of like having a Wizard of Oz moment where like the Wicked Witch is dead, something like that, and like Joe Biden is somehow Dorothy or something stupid. I don't know.
What you think it is, or what's your take on it?
I mean,
Do you
honestly,
agree with those people who flame me?
I don't. I mean, I feel like I probably have mentioned in the last episode, but also like Dorian said, like it's the lesser of two evils. That's been something that's been a running theme within the last 4 years, or even within this election, is that lesser of two evils. Gotta get this dude out, but we know that this dude we're putting in isn't the best.
Right.
Ooh, he has a black vice president, which is amazing. Kamala, love it.
And that's next.
We'll get there. We'll get there. So I'm gonna hold off my comments on her because I'll hold off my comments on her. But whatever the case may be, I think it's a lesser of two evils kind of situation. Ultimately, Joe Biden, I've seen some questionable things, whether it's touching young people inappropriately or making people uncomfortable. I've seen a lot of questionable things, so I'm not going to say that I'm for Joe Biden particularly. I feel like, absolutely, we need to get Trump out. And I can see the viewpoint and the logic behind the black people who are baby boomers and stuff like Dorian mentioned that are just like, we need to get him out. It doesn't matter who's next, because that's the truth. Like, we need to get past this, sure. But ultimately, is Joe Biden going to do anything too different for us? Not particularly sure. And ultimately, I'm not going to believe it until Trump's out the White House. I don't care. Like, he's going to leave kicking and screaming. I'm not going to believe until Inauguration Day Joe Biden's in the White House and Trump is officially out, because he's going to claim that there was rigged elections.
He already got lawsuits.
Absolutely. He's going to have plenty of lawsuits. Like, it's going to be ridiculous. So, good luck for this. I haven't been on the bandwagon with the whole, oh, yeah, we got a new president. Fuck all that. I won't believe it until I see it. Ready, no, I won't believe it till I see it. Like, I'm not going to believe it till I see it, period. Like, he's not going to leave single-handedly. Like, he's going to kick and scream and act like a kid.
So, from what it sounds like, it just sounds like black people would rather be... they would rather feel comfortable with your bigotry. Like, you know, as long as you allow them to feel good and, you know, you're not, like, I don't know, because me personally, like, when it comes to people who display bigotry, I would rather see it, you know, like, close and personal. Like, I would rather see you with the MAGA hats or, you know, whatever, or the Confederate flag, like, because you're showing me openly, you know what I mean? All right, like, I keep my distance. I know what type of time you on. Versus the, you know, I don't know, day-to-day manager at Ross, you know what I mean, that might have some bigotry towards you and implement that to not give you a job, but they didn't come out and say, like, oh, I'm not racist. Like, so I actually think that's more dangerous in a way when you're dealing with somebody like that.
I definitely agree. However, I can definitely see the black culture being okay with the complacency. If it's not overt, then... it is what it is. At least he's like faking it till he make it. But think about it. Our culture is all about flexing, facades, portraying one thing but living another. That's a running theme, and I know that's controversial as hell. But ultimately, that's the truth of the matter. Like, we're all about flexing. We're all about making it seem like things are better than what they are. Whether it's our personal situation, whether it's our financial situation, whether it's our family situation, we gonna put on a facade. And I feel like that's what Joe Biden's doing and has been doing. And that's what people are upset about, because they're like, oh, well, he's putting on the facade. Think about it, though. Our culture's all about it. Call a spade, and let's not call the kettle black, because ultimately it is what it is. Like, he's doing the same thing and implementing, or if you want to throw the word out there, appropriating certain practices that we do in our own culture, which is faking it till we make it.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, it ain't, oh my bad. Like, it ain't, my issue really wasn't like, you know, people being content or just hell-bent on getting Trump out of there. It was the celebration of Biden as if like this was like some big liberation like, or something for us. So that was more so what I was addressing. I'm like, again, based on the comments that I seen from like stemming from, I think something amongst the lines of you know, school integration being one of the most racist concepts, and like, I mean, I can go down the line. I ain't even gonna waste time doing it, but because I'm like, honestly, if you don't know, it's like you clearly you've seen it and didn't care. You just don't want to see it. You're you know, purposefully like being oblivious to it. Like, but yeah, go ahead.
I feel like Malcolm X probably touched on it. Something along the lines of like, you have the conservative white politician, you have the liberal white politician, and typically black people have a better, or we feel we have a better relationship or more of an affinity with your white liberals. Right. But in reality, they're just as racist, if not more racist, than the conservatives. And it's really funny that Joe Biden is actually the presidential candidate versus somebody like Donald Trump, who, you know, is deemed as a racist throughout the nation. But we can't even skip over the fact that Joe Biden was extremely instrumental in that 1994 crime bill that ushered in mass incarceration for black people. Absolutely. To a degree where they say, like, we have more black people in jail now than black people were enslaved, you know, over 100 years ago. Right. And it's like, that's the man that's supposed to be getting rid of a racist.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah.
And if you go back and look at some of the congressional hearings with Joe Biden and listen to the language that he's using and just the vitriol and the fervor that he has when he's speaking about those things, And, you know, liberals, they use euphemisms all the time, so they don't always got to come out and say nigger or black or whatever. They can say these criminals, these thugs, these da-da-da-da-da, but you know what they talking about. So when you look at, those things, it's like, yo, that man is probably one of the most racist people I've ever seen without actually, you know, wearing a Ku Klux Klan hood or something like that.
Or a MAGA hat.
And that's somehow... And it's weird because he became black people's savior through proxy of him being vice president for Obama, right? And that's it. Like, that's pretty much it. Like, he hasn't done anything for the black community to speak of. He hasn't, you know, been part of no protests. He hasn't stood up for us in no type of way. It's just that he was vice president.
And Bernie had all that.
Exactly.
Bernie
had all that.
Just throwing that out there.
It's just like, just the fact, and don't even get me started on Barack, but just the fact that he was in close proximity to Barack, it carried over to black people. Like, oh, that's like, you know, that's our savior now, and it's sad to see, honestly, but you know,
it's such a sheep mentality. It's very unfortunate, the whole group think ideal or phenomena that's going on in America today, whether it's from one party or the next. Doesn't matter what part of the spectrum, is groupthink regardless, whether it's religion, whether it's belief systems, and it's always passed down from what was before.
Right.
And that is so unfortunate because people are so close-minded to the idea that things can change, things can be different. Things don't have to be what your ancestors or your people or your parents or your grandparents, how it was for them. It doesn't have to be that way. But ultimately, I don't know. I find it very interesting how Americans, that's part of why I don't watch the news, is that whole groupthink thing. Like, this is all biased. CNN is for liberals. Fox is for Republicans, and that's kind of like a thing. If there's an in-between, world news? Maybe. Like, even then, it's like filtered, though. Everything's filtered in some lens or another. Right. So you're never going to get the whole scope of things. You're always going to get one bias or the next, and that's human experience, but ultimately, like, we can work against that. We can work to give every side a voice or every side a glance or a second look, because ultimately it doesn't always have to be black or white. There's so much gray areas within humanity that is so overlooked, it's ridiculous.
Right. And his vice president, he chose Miss please don't kill me if I say her name, Kamala Harris.
Kamala.
Yeah.
I've heard.
I ain't gonna say whatever, but you know, my apologies for if I'm saying her name wrong. I still get chewed up for that. How do y'all feel about, like, because I think it's a bigger discussion within our community, like, what, like, I guess percentage per se do you need to have in you, in your guys' opinion, that would, like, qualify you as being a black woman or a black man?
I mean, I view Kamala as black. Like, I don't know what break down her ethnicity or anything like that. But when I look at her, I see a black woman just before even knowing anything else about her. I look at her like somebody showing pictures, like, what ethnicity? I'm like, oh, black. Okay. You feel me? You can say, oh, Jamaican, Indian, da da da. That's not even my argument. I don't even care about that, to be perfectly honest. Okay. But I do view her as a black woman. Like, that's not even a debate for me.
And for me personally, I definitely view it as pretty dope. Like, you know, ultimately coming from the same heritage in the sense of she will be, and I hope I'm saying it right, of Douglas heritage, which is West Indian and African. And that's Black and Indian. And I am the same mix. Okay. I want to say exactly the same race or mix as she is, but my mother is Black, African American. My father is African and Indian, but Jamaican, because both his people are born and both his parents are born and raised in Jamaica. Okay. But with Jamaica, it not being black, white, it's not really, it's like, hard to find the balance. I've noticed myself, because it's like, yeah, no, they're Jamaican, but they're Indian, but they're black, and it's like, yeah, ultimately, our vice president is a representation of me, which is dope. I never would love to be in politics. I find it completely illogical to want to rule a country, but that's a power thing, that's a change thing, that's a passion thing that I can never understand. Right. But I love that there's representation for black women, for mixed women, for people in third world countries that you can make it to such a high point in life and make a change, make a difference, have a voice. I love that representation. I can't say that I'm so passionate to be like, oh my God, Kamala, yes, my spirit animal, and this, like, and I love it. Love to see it. Does not affect me particularly. Love to see it, because maybe if she was a therapist or a psychologist, that's where we're down, it'd be a little different. But love that she's making a mark and doing something for females, young females who need to see it.
I think my probably level of ignorance is what stopped me from really like celebrating the fact that we have our first black vice president in history, because there was so many question marks that I seen around her ethnicity, of her, for her not like really projecting her blackness, I guess, until recent years of the election coming up. And I don't know. I think like I just literally recently went and looked and seen like, okay, like her dad is Jamaican and her mom's side is supposed to be like Indian. And the way I, take things in, like I basically think like if you're at least 50%, I would say like, you're black, because there'd be people that be having like a percentage of it and then want to jump in and say like, oh yeah, I'm black, like when it's at their convenience.
They did their
so I try to be real careful when it comes to that. And then me seeing some of the stories centered around her when she was prosecuting and seeing certain people that she potentially locked up that were, and I ain't gonna say potentially, there were people that were locked up that were innocent under her prosecution. So, I mean, but Obama really, he also had things that I had issues with when he was in office, but I always say that I have like another found respect for him just on two merits. Where one, I think there's a lot of young black kids in 2008 that probably saw that and were like, man, like, I really can do anything.
Right.
Like, we talked about it a little bit last night, how we always have to be told, when we go out, like, you can do anything, you can be anything. And it's like, no, they see it. So I think the perpetuation of that, like, of young black kids at the time, we still are going to see, I think, an aftermath of, we don't know what endless possibilities of young African Americans coming up who are going to say, like, that was the moment that sparked something in me to where I seen, So I have respect for him on that. And the fact that he condemned white supremacy adamantly on a national scale. Right. You know what I mean? And I think he's probably the first president I could think of, definitely in my lifetime, that I've seen do that. So I have respect for that aspect alone. But I think if I was to get more educated maybe on what her ethnicity exactly is, and I'm like, I try not to kind of go in on certain things without fully knowing what I'm saying, what the full circumstances are. I think that's what's been stopping me. But if it checks out that she is indeed black woman, like, of course that's something I celebrate, that's something I'm proud of on that merit alone. And whatever issues I have outside of that, I'll have outside of that. But that's just like basically my take on her.
I say for myself, it's not even like, the issue isn't whether or not she's black or whatever, whatever she claims to be. I ain't even tripping. It's more the fact that I feel like them choosing her to be the vice president was more of like
absolutely.
Like the exact definition of tokenism. Like, she's female minority liberal or something like that. And it's like, okay,
she checks all the boxes.
Especially in today's like social climate, she pairs extremely well with Joe Biden. Like, to American sensibilities, you're getting your traditional white man who's still in charge, but you still have
the diversity,
the black woman who who knows how to go along with the structure and not rock the boat too much. Right. And so when they say that, like, she's going to be his running mate, I didn't get excited at all. It didn't mean because I saw it for what it was. I hope a lot more people did too. But then that on its own, and then also when you look at like her track record as like far as you know, people she's convicted, information that she's kept to keep people in jail, different ways that she's went after people, is kind of like, yo, you playing for the other side, like you playing for the other side big time. So and then thinking about, I'm forgetting dude's name, but the guy who was over that the DA who was over the Breonna Taylor indictment.
Okay, I forgot his name.
Yeah, well, it was hilarious, fucking, but
right, fuck that nigga. Like, fuck him.
But my point is, he's a black man. You feel me? He's a black man in that office. So a lot of times, we'll say having a black person in office is a sign of progress, but that's not necessarily the case. Just
sometimes
because
it's
we don't
a sign of complacency.
Exactly,
like,
you don't know what their mindset is. Somebody showed a picture of the dude who was over there. We gotta get his name, but the dude who was over the Breonna Taylor case, he was getting his hair cut at like super cuts. You feel me? And as a black man, you go for 100%. Like you're not gonna go
super
cut
to
get your hair cut.
okay.
Like that's a red flag in and of itself. But just because we have people that, you know, share our skin color, don't mean they share our mentality. Don't mean that they want to help us advance at all. So with Kamala Harris, once again, I've been divested from politics, so it don't really. They got me with Barack. You feel me? They got me with Barack one time. I voted for him twice, but you know, now I'm just kind of like, all right. I feel like by the time, if you're black, by the time you actually make it to a point where you're being, I don't know, considered for these offices, you probably
have sold out a lot.
Yeah, sold out a long time ago.
A long time ago.
I mean, and another thing that's, I think, kind of holding me back from genuinely celebrating is me questioning your integrity with us, because like when you do pandering, like I don't know if you guys seen when she went on Breakfast Club and said like she was listening to Snoop and Pac in college, and then they went back and checked of when she graduated. I mean, like her PhD, master's, like all of that. She was done in, I think, like 86, 87 before they was even in the industry. So it's like little stuff like that. Like it's not a big deal, but it's like clearly who are you trying to convince, us or you? Like,
like so, you had no reason to go there.
And it's such an easily disprovable.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like it's easy to disprove. Like you think,
and it's hard for me to kind of distinguish that between when Hillary Clinton went on Breakfast Club talking about I keep hot sauce in my purse.
Yeah,
and like
I'm not finna play. I didn't hear that, but whatever. I don't want to hear it. Like,
and the funny thing is, Charlamagne like straight up asked her like, "Are you trying to say that just to just trying to get the black people?" And she didn't even like try to hide it. She was just like, "Oh, is it working? Like, you can go look it up. Like, it's all
and I will.
You look
like,
all this put up like."
Ridiculous.
So it like I kind of looked at it as the same, and it's like, but you're supposed to be a black woman, so why do you need to convince us that you're a black woman?
Right.
You know what I mean,
and let's not even speak on the fact that she got like a. I ain't gonna say it.
Say it.
Go ahead. Say it. Like,
she got a white husband.
Oh yeah.
That matters.
That's the dagger. Yeah,
that matters.
That is another dagger.
No
like, you got too many question marks.
That matters.